53%. Winds were south at 15 miles an hour, gusting to 23. The pressure was 29.93 inches and falling. In Longview, skies were cloudy with a temperature of 68 degrees. The dew point was 63, making the relative humidity 84%. Winds were south at 12 miles an hour, gusting to 22. The pressure was 29.94 inches and falling. Once again in Tyler, it was 69 degrees with mostly sunny skies at noon. Here is your area's open water boating forecast. Wind gusts may be higher. Rest of today, partly cloudy in the late morning, then becoming mostly cloudy. Windy. Highs in the mid-70s. South winds 15 to 20 miles per hour. Tonight, a 20% chance of showers and thunderstorms after midnight. Mostly cloudy. Lows in the mid-60s. South winds 10 to 15 miles per hour. Monday, windy. Showers likely and a chance of thunderstorms in the morning. Then showers with thunderstorms likely in the afternoon. Some thunderstorms may be severe in the afternoon. Cloudy. Highs in the mid-70s. South winds 15 to 25 miles per hour. Chance of precipitation 90%. Monday night, showers and thunderstorms likely in the evening. Then a chance of showers and thunderstorms after midnight. Some thunderstorms may be severe in the evening. Becoming partly cloudy. Windy. Cooler.
Alrighty, everybody, what is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another live stream here for today. Obviously, I have to say Happy New Year's and welcome to the first live stream of 2023. Let's go ahead and make this an amazing year, my friends. I hope you guys have an amazing year this year. I hope you guys have plenty of goals set for yourself. That is something, guys, that you should do, is set some goals for what you want to accomplish this year. Anyways, my friends, hope everyone's doing good. Let's go ahead and see who is here in the chat. We have Vezer, we looked at here earlier. Let's see here. We also have Jonathan, we have Crystal Miller, we have Criminy Cricket here, we have Snowy, we have Castro. Let's see, we have Margaret here. Let's see, Becca's here. What's up, everybody? Hope you're doing all right. Glad to have you guys here for today. Once again, Happy New Year goes to all of you guys out there. We got a lot of stuff to talk about today regarding the weather. Obviously, you know, it's kind of based off of the channel. But we have a lot of stuff regarding snowfall, regarding severe storms. Yeah, it's going to be a big mess. This whole system is set to be pretty nasty. So we're going to have to dive into that here. Let's go ahead and see. So we got some questions. Margaret's wanted to know what will be happening in central and southern Arkansas. So you can see across portions here of Arkansas right off the bat. This is tomorrow's severe weather risk. And we actually have a slight risk for the entirety of Arkansas. And then for portions of like the central and western sides, because you were talking about the central side, we actually have an enhanced risk, which is a severe level 3 out of 5. The higher the level, the more severe and the more higher potential of you seeing severe storms exist. So in this case, yeah, you got to be watching out if you're across portions of Arkansas, because you're definitely in a pretty nasty risk here. Anywhere across the orange is kind of the bullseye here for tomorrow. And unfortunately, tornadoes will be a big concern. And potentially some large ones, too. That's kind of the concern here. Anyways, but let's go ahead and see here. Let's see. Angel says, blessings all. Well, obviously, thank you all for joining us. Hope you all are doing good. Anyways, but let's just go ahead and dive on into it. Like I said, we have a lot of stuff to cover here. We're going to start off here with the severe weather side of things here. So let's go ahead and switch on over here. We're going to take a look at the same thing, but we're going to take a look here at the the Storm Prediction Center's view. So we have an enhanced risk. As mentioned before, that's kind of the bullseye here for tomorrow. Overall, the chances, the areas here that could see it, maybe a few isolated severe storms exist across these areas here as circled in red. So my friends, if you're across portions of eastern Texas, portions of pretty much south central, and northern portions of Louisiana, you're at risk. Western Mississippi, western Tennessee, western Kentucky, southern Illinois even, that severe storm is actually expected to potentially make its way up to southern Illinois. And moving all the way up into portions here, maybe as far north as northern Missouri, could actually see some severe storms out of this. So gotta be watching out for that. Obviously, Arkansas, kind of one of the big impact areas here in portions of eastern Oklahoma, and eastern Kansas. So, like I said, kind of the bullseye zone for tomorrow. The areas I'm a little concerned about regarding severe weather exist across portions of northeastern Texas, northwestern Louisiana, portions here of central and southern Arkansas, as well as southeastern Oklahoma. These are the regions I'm a little concerned about. So once again, if you're across those areas here in the yellow and especially the orange, I would definitely monitor tomorrow's severe weather event because, like I said, I mean, it could play out to be quite the event here. Just a heck of a way to start off the new year of 2023 by starting off with a bunch of severe storms here. So obviously that's what we're going to be doing tomorrow. We're going to be giving you guys coverage on this event here for tomorrow. So I'll make sure you guys are staying up to date with this. So when it comes to the tornado threat here, we actually have a decent chance here. If you're in any shade of color here, except obviously for white, you have the risk for a potential of a few tornadoes. The 2% zone across the dark green is honestly not really that much of a big concern. I mean, it's basically just saying a lot of isolated, a lot of spaced out potentials of tornadoes could exist. Now, once you start to move into that brown shaded color, the 5% region, that's whenever the percentile increases. So basically the 5% is saying you have a 5% chance of seeing a tornado within every 25 miles, which that's getting up there. But you might notice we have a really odd shade color of yellow here. This is actually a 10% chance of having a tornado every 25 miles. You take a box, 25 miles by 25 miles, there's a 10% chance a tornado could drop in there. But here's the thing, there's a little something special about this other tornado thing here. As you notice, there's a lot of dashed lines in it. And that's what we call the hatch risk. That's what we call the basically the significant or hatch risks. This is the grounds where we potentially could see some damaging, some like large tornadoes potentially. And with that being said, potentially some could be EF2 to EF5. Now I want to go ahead and say here, we haven't seen an EF5 tornado in a long time. So obviously the chances are still very low for an EF5 to happen. But like I said, I mean, potentially we could see them quite stronger than EF2. So obviously we got to really be watching across those regions. So, you know, once again, that's kind of across that enhanced region. You know, that's right across the grounds I'm mostly worried about. As mentioned before, like northeastern Texas, southeastern Oklahoma, basically southern portions of Arkansas and northwestern Louisiana. That's kind of the grounds I'm a little bit concerned about when it comes to tornado activity. So we're going to have to definitely pay attention to these grounds here for tomorrow. Damaging winds, yeah, that's even a big concern in itself here. 30% risk across that hatched region we were just looking at there a minute ago for tornadoes. Same thing here. 30% chance of seeing some damaging winds, perhaps maybe 60 to 70 mile per hour wind gusts. What the winds could get up to might actually reach up into the grounds of around 60 to 70 mile an hour winds. So that's definitely a bit interesting, and that could cause some localized wind damage. So say if a tornado doesn't happen, damaging winds could obviously hurt things. It could obviously damage. So now would be a great time if you're across any of these shades. I would say if you're especially across the like I said, especially if you're across like yellow and red, this would be a good time today to, if you have anything loose outside, such as like lawn furniture or something like that, it would be recommended to bring that inside. At this point, obviously, like I said, it's good to prepare early. You know, obviously it's good to have a plan to prepare for the worst. Like I said, expect the worst, but like I said, it's better to over prepare than under prepare during these events here. So it would be recommended if you are across any of these shades, especially the yellow and red, to possibly move anything that's loose outside inside, just until the storms have basically moved through. Anyways, but that's kind of what's going on there. And then regarding the hail's not really the biggest concern, although there is a second shade here once again across the the enhanced region there. That's kind of where we are potentially seeing some large hail up to quarter size or larger in some of these. So, with that being said, tornadoes, large hail, and damaging winds will be a big concern tomorrow. And unfortunately, that's not all, because, in the forecast here, they're actually talking about the flooding concern. Some areas could see as much as 4 inches of rainfall across the south, which that could be a bit concerning in its own. So there's actually the flooding potential, there's the damaging winds, large hail, and even tornadoes being possible across these regions, which is definitely going to be a little bit crazy here. Let's see here. Becca says, do I know that if crazy weather is heading into Nashville, Tennessee on Tuesday? So here's obviously Monday's risks. Now Tuesdays, honestly, right there for Nashville, it's going to be possible. across some of these regions here. You can kind of see how Nashville is just barely inside that marginal risk. Now, this is not the bullseye. This is not the craziest severe weather risk that there can be, but it is a possibility that a few isolated severe storms could exist. There is no breakdown on the day 3 outlook, which is for this, obviously for the 3rd here. But we'll keep you updated with that. Obviously tomorrow we'll let you know more about what we can expect here for the 3rd. But obviously right now for today, we're actually watching tomorrow's risk, and then we'll take it day by day here. But once again, so watch out. I'd say watch out for the 3rd for an isolated threat of maybe a few severe storms here. So just watch out for that. Let's see. Haley says, hi, Andrew. Are we going to have any storms in the Kansas City region? So it's possible. Yeah, here tomorrow, there's actually a risk here. I'll actually go ahead and bring this back to my other view. I can actually zoom into this more. So towards like Kansas City region, you can see right here how it's highlighted in dark green. That's what we call the marginal risk. That is the severe threat level 1 out of 5. Once again, the higher the level, the more severe, or the higher the number, the more severe it could potentially get. This is the lowest level of severity, but any severe storms could potentially be life-threatening. That's basically what this is saying. But it's more of an isolated, kind of more of a discrete type of severe, expectancy here. For example, for a good visual for you guys, not to show this as to be exact, but for an example of what kind of the differences mean. I mean, say a severe thunderstorm happens there. Obviously kind of well spread out possibilities of a few severe storms. Now, once you move in towards the yellow, that's whenever they can become a little bit more closer together. So you guys can kind of see what I'm trying to say, and obviously across the orange. Once again, this is not exact, obviously, but once we move in towards the higher shades, is obviously where they can become a lot more closer regarding the the overall views, the overall spacing between them. The higher you go up in the risk, obviously the more likelihood of you seeing severe storms exist, but also the higher severe potential, more stronger storms could be expected across those yellow and especially the orange shaded colors. So, but for you there, Haley, for Kansas City, you're in that kind of isolated threat where a few severe thunderstorms could exist nearby. The overall chance, I'd have to say, is for you. If I was to give you a chance to say if you have a severe storm or if you would not, I'd say you have a better chance of not seeing a severe storm just because of how isolated that threat is, but not saying that it can't happen. It means that's why you're under a risk, is because it potentially could. So be on the lookout for that. Let's see. Becca says, rock on. Thank you so much. No problem. Yeah, no problem, guys. I got you all covered here. Let's see. Ohio won a nice thunderstorm. I like watching them. Yeah, me too. And here's the thing. So 4 portions of Ohio, obviously here for tomorrow, this is not going to be a concern. For obviously moving in towards Tuesday. Yeah, so for Tuesday, obviously the storms don't really reach their way, or the severe storms don't reach their way to Ohio. But you notice how there's a light green shade here. Now, that is a thunderstorm risk. That is just a normalized thunderstorm potential. Saying, okay, we could have a few thunderstorms, but their severity is not expected. They're not expected to be severe by any means. So that's just kind of just your average little thunderstorm that could potentially move through. But yeah, that's kind of what we're seeing there across that light green shaded color, is that those areas could see some thunderstorms, but in regarding to life-threatening conditions, no, it's not really expected. That's more for the areas in the dark green and the yellow. That's where that starts to increase of strong to severe storms. But like I said, tomorrow is the big day. Tomorrow we got to be really watching out for. Once again, for the friends just now joining us, for the tornado probability, we have a pretty decent chance here. We actually have a 10% chance of having tornadoes across the yellow, 5% chance of having tornadoes across the brown, and a 2% chance of having tornadoes across the green. And like I said, basically every 25 miles, this chance repeats itself. So say where my dot is, say that's a 25 mile by 25 mile box. So basically what that's meaning is that there's a 10% chance that there could be a tornado dropping in that box. And here's the thing, like I said, there's actually significance on that. We take a look at the significant tornado threat. You can see we have a 10% significant tornado chance here for tomorrow. So the areas that you see highlighted right here, that is the bullseye for the potential of the strongest and the most likelihood of seeing tornadoes will be across these areas here. So once again, northeastern Texas, northwestern Louisiana, south central portions of Arkansas, and southeastern Oklahoma. That is the grounds where a few strong tornadoes could be, obviously possible across those regions there. But anyways, But that's just kind of what we're talking about here regarding the severe weather threats. So the next thing I want to go ahead and show you guys is actually the timing on this event here. So I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and switch on over here to the models here for 1 second. I kind of want to talk about, the timing of this event. But before I do, I wanted to go ahead and tell you guys, it's not just the severe storms that we're expecting out of this. Like I said, it's not just the severe weather that's expected across the south. There's actually another side to this event too. There's actually the threat for snow and potentially some heavy snow. Some areas could perhaps see well over a foot of snow. And some areas actually could see maybe up to 1.5 feet of snow. So obviously with that being said, that could get pretty nasty. But let's just take this in time here. The time is literally right there if you guys want to follow along there. Obviously, you guys can see the time. This is just an estimate off of the NAM 3km model at the Future Radar View. We track our way down here in time, though. We have a lot of moisture across the west. This caused a lot of flooding for California here over the last day or so. But look what happens. So once we track into portions like tomorrow evening, you're going to start to notice how we start to get some nasty snowfall across portions of Nebraska, South Dakota, and surrounding areas like that. But if you zoom in closely towards these regions here, you see how they're a bit more darker. I should probably lower that pin there. But you see how they're a little bit more darker, a lot of red starting to pop up. So that's actually the storms that's going to start to really start to kick off across the region. And then obviously as we track way further down in time, the snow is going to kick up here to the northeast. Low pressure system will move along with it. And you can really see that big old cold front moving right here, especially for the morning of the 3rd. Could potentially be pretty nasty. We zoom into that, you can actually see that very well-defined cold front moving through. Honestly, that's kind of that's kind of the big part of this event here, is right on that little cold front there. But you can see the storms firing off here as early as pretty much 2-3 o'clock tomorrow, tracking all the way well past midnight and kind of fading out by the early morning of the 3rd. But then obviously as daylight heating occurs and stuff like that, we can expect more thunderstorms to fire off here out of this line, starting the threat for the 3rd. Because like I said, we actually do have a slight risk here for the 3rd. We take a look at that right now. This is not for tomorrow, but this is for the day after. So that's something we got to definitely be watching out for. But yeah, like I said, this is tomorrow's risk here regarding that. So that's just a little bit of a view regarding timing. I do want to show you guys the the more of the snow view of this. So we'll go ahead and switch on back here to the models real quickly. Still looking at the same one. But we track away further down in time. So the snow is really going to start across portions of western Nebraska, southern portions of South Dakota for around 6 in the morning here for tomorrow, tracking its way up here. Now there is actually a concern for ice, and I'm actually a little concerned about this. You kind of see where the areas here are kind of in that pink and purple shaded color. So that's kind of around the zone where we potentially could see some nasty ice out of this. It's possible, we could see a lot of sleet, maybe some freezing rain falling across these regions that could make conditions pretty icy. We'll look at the warnings and watches here in a little bit and show you guys the already warnings we have in place for a lot of these areas, because they've already started issuing a lot of warnings for these zones. So definitely got to be watching out for that. But once again, heavy snow continues here for basically the beginning of the 3rd. And really kicks its way up here. You can see how, really dark blue this is kind of showing us. And that's actually showing us that we are potentially going to be seeing some heavy snow bands. Potentially maybe 2 to 4 inches per hour could be possible out of this. We're talking very, very moisture-filled bands of snow to be falling across a lot of those dark blue shaded colors. Really starting off across Nebraska, moving into South Dakota. Honestly, when it comes to the snowfall accumulations, you're going to see that areas here towards south central Minnesota potentially could see basically the heaviest accumulations